What's going on? What's up, Doug Nation? It's your man C Dougie again with another episode here. We have a special guest. You see, he's part of the Charlotte Observer. Draft is literally a week away, people. The waiting is over with. The guesstimation of where we're mocking at, who we're taking, trade up, trade down, top 30 visits are kind of sort of to a close. But with Dan having his presser this week, we learned a little bit, what he was thinking about. But let me go ahead and bring up our guest from the Charlotte Observer. We have Mr. Alex Zietlow joining us to go ahead and talk about Dan Morgan's presser and what he's been hearing on the streets, being a beat writer for the Charlotte Observer, giving us a little bit of more insight. So, welcome to What's Up, Doug. Alex, how you feeling, man?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling honored. And it's funny, you reach out to me and I immediately say, "Oh, what's up, Doug?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Like, this is why this show is named like this." I apologize if that joke has been made like 100 times, but I couldn't resist.
You're good, man.
Yeah.
That is the name of the show. What's up, Doug? As most people know, Doug is short for Douglas, which is my middle name. And everybody like, "What's up, Doug?" So yes, I appreciate you pulling up. Shout out to your co-worker, Mike K. Definitely brought Alex and myself together. Said, "Hey, Doug, you do good work. Alex does good work." A lot of people don't know about Alex. I want Alex to get the shine to join What's Up, Doug, as he did during the Shrine Bowl. So definitely shout out to Mr. Mike K, man. But this moment right here is for Mr. Alex Zietlow to definitely bring you guys what he's been hearing. He was in the presser this past Tuesday with Dan Morgan, was able to ask a couple of questions, but we're going to do a little bit of deep diving over here at What's Up, Doug, to give you guys inside information, get you prepared for next Thursday. So, Alex, with that being said, how are you feeling as a beat writer for Charlotte Observer? Are you finally glad that we're so closer to the draft? Are you glad that it's all coming to a close? All the pressers will actually know what Dan Morgan meant on Tuesday about that 8th pick. How are you actually feeling in your position of doing your job?
I'm very ready for the draft to come, and honestly for the team to have all of its premier pieces heading into the rest of its offseason program. I mean, it's kind of an interesting part of the year because so the season ends in early January, and then in February you got the combine, which you go to in Indianapolis, and you learn all about these college guys coming up and going to the draft. And then in March, first week of March, or mid-March or whatever, you got free agency. And that's when a lot of teams do their big work in terms of filling out a roster, getting these veterans, getting guys that can come in and be plug-in guys day one. And then in April, you got this NFL draft, and it's in late April. It's like a big slog. You are holding on to like very small things like that presser on Tuesday to try to indicate, okay, what is the brass going to do? How are people within the organization feeling about certain guys? But ultimately, and we talked about this off air, you don't truly know. I mean, you have an understanding of what the team needs. You have an understanding of the top 30 visits that guys are going on. You know certain things like that. And obviously during NFL pre-draft processes, you learn a lot about guys' characters and stuff like this. And there is a lot of drama. Oh, Shedeur Sanders is dropping here. Oh, blah, blah, blah. So like things happen over the course of those weeks, but still so much happens on draft night. In the press conference that Dan gave today, he said that the Panthers didn't trade up or didn't really have plan. I mean, I guess they had like a scenario in which they could trade up, but they didn't pull the trigger on trading up to the first round to get Xavier Legette until draft night, until that sort of came together. And they did. And, that's the reality. The reality is that draft day is when a lot of these things happen. And so we can sit here and talk about what we think will happen and what should happen for the Panthers to be better as a franchise. But like day one of draft day is when everything goes down. And so I say all that to say, yes, let's get it going. Let's get there so we can finally kind of see what this team is going to be.
All right, so what you said, let's get going. Let's go ahead and get it going. The first was Tuesday, and a lot of people are kind of scratching their heads. Did Dan Morgan do a smoke screen? Did he say too much, or did he not say enough? And meaning with the whole being stuck at 8. I personally feel, depending on how the board goes, if Shedeur Sanders goes, you have 2 quarterbacks in the top 5. That does help. There's a question: will the Jacksonville Jaguars get Mason Graham, or will they get Ted McMillan? Then I've also heard on my end of Jalon Walker being liked by the New England Patriots. So when you look at that, how did you feel being in the room when Dan Morgan said the word being stuck at 8? Did it open your eyes? Do you think we're blowing the stuck word up too much, or he was basically just saying, with the situation right now, we're stuck at 8. Let's see what happens on Thursday.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. So to give context for the listeners who may not have watched the press conference, essentially there was discourse about, okay, if the Panthers do select someone at 8, what do you think? Where should the Panthers put their priorities? I don't exactly remember the exact question, but that was sort of the thing. The question led in with, okay, so if assuming y'all pick at 8, blah, blah, blah. And then Dan answers the question and kind of mirrors the question and goes, yeah, if we're stuck at 8, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, but using the word stuck is so interesting because it's and not to just word nitpick here, but the word stuck is kind of a pejorative. And what I mean by that is it's kind of we don't really want this pick at 8.
Correct.
And I personally, when I was in the room, I kind of more so heard it as Dan I don't think he meant it that way personally. I think that he was just answering the question in a mirrored response and being yo, yes, if we do choose at 8, blah, blah, blah. He just used the word stuck.
Correct.
That said, I am of the opinion, Alex Zietlow is of the opinion that the Panthers would be better served if they do find a trade partner and do kind of increase their draft load by trading back and maybe and moving back a little bit because, and as my colleague has said many times, the Panthers pick at number 8, and as it is now, and then they pick at number 57. That is a huge gap.
That's a big gap. That's a gap.
That's a huge gap of people that the Panthers would be missing out on if they don't find a way to either trade back or get more picks in there. And on top of that, this draft has it's widely contended that this draft doesn't have a ton of it has some top end talent, but the real jewels of this draft are going to be found in day 2, in the second and third rounds of the draft, particularly in the defensive front, which, by the way, the Panthers need some front 7 defensive guys. So I think that would be ideal if the Panthers can trade back. And so if that's what ends up happening, I think the history books will be oh, see, Dan indicated this when he said stuck. But I personally, in today's press conference, on Tuesday's press conference, I don't think he meant it like that. Does that make sense, Doug?
That makes sense to me, and I can even translate it more. And this may not help Dan's case, but if you look at the top 30 visits, most of those top 30 visits are players that are on the back end of round 1, and like you said, round 2 and 3. So even before he had his presser this past Tuesday, we've already showed our hand in the top 30 visits. And if you look at it, last year, 6 of our 7 draftees were at the Senior Bowl. And if I'm not mistaken, 4 or 5 of those that we met at the Senior Bowl had top 30 visits. So that when I keep harping on that top 30 visits, that is an importance to the Carolina Panthers. So not just because Dan said something on Tuesday about being stuck at number 8, look at the top 30 visits, people. Most of the players that, I'll just throw a name out there. Walter Nolan's not going to be a top 10 pick. He is a mid-round, first-round pick. I'm probably going to mess his name up. Is it Donovan as Azuka, I know it starts with the E, the defensive end for Boston College. Um, his he's a mid tweener in the top in round one. Then you got Nick Emmenwar, who everybody loves from South Carolina. So again, I can keep going on, but most of these top 30 visits are players that are in the back of the first round and second and third round. So that's giving me that before this press where everybody's freaking out, oh, Dan said we're trading back. You got to read your own tea leaves again. Once reports are coming out from Joe Person, everybody else, Mike K, probably you as well, Alice. Everybody already knew our top 30 visits. Most of these guys were going to be at the back end of the first round. So I don't know why everybody's freaking out now with it being 1 week ahead. If you draft back or pull back from the draft, you got more draft capital. And that's what we need right now to fix this defense as well.
Yeah. No, well, and it's interesting you mentioned Nick Emmenwar from out of South Carolina. He's a safety. The Panthers have 2 safeties on their on their team right now. I know that there was.
We got 3 because
you got Nick Scott.
Yeah, and everybody don't count them, but we don't count them. But I knew what you meant.
I apologize. Yeah, no, I consider, and that's unfair of me. I consider Nick Scott as this special teams ace gunner.
Correct.
But you're right.
Correct.
Okay, all right. You got 3 guys. Well, okay, but you typically bring how many safeties on your 90-man roster for offseason programs? Probably bring
5.
what?
About
5 to 6. Yep. Yeah, so you're gonna need to add some. And even Joe Person in the press conference today said, yeah, Dan, is the thinking that you're gonna have to get a safety out of this draft? And Dan immediately goes, yeah. Well, no, we don't want to box ourselves in. I think that there is an indication that they're gonna take a safety in the draft somewhere. Do I think they're gonna take him at a premium? With a premium pick, it's such an interesting question. Do you take a safety or do you take a tight end in the first round when the Panthers have other needs and not only other needs but just other position groups that are valued higher? Is that what you do? I personally don't think that would be the prudent thing for the Panthers to do. I think that they should just stick to what they know. Get an edge rusher, get a front 7 defensive guy. If Mason Graham somehow by the grace of God falls to the Panthers at 8,
you better run to the
don't
podium.
Overthink it. Take him, yes, exactly. So I don't envision the Panthers gambling their first round pick with the safety or with the tight end, but I mean, I guess you never know. But I think you get an edge rusher, I think you get a defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, or you get the long shot is a receiver. I think that's what you do in the first round, personally.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about that edge because a lot of people are finally on the Jalon Walker train. I know it was Mikael Williams out there as well, both of them being dogs from UGA. But
Doug, real quick, what are you on the Jalon Walker train? Like you were saying, how are you feeling about him?
So for me, like I said, Jalon Walker is a tone setter. Something that we possibly wanted Brian Burns to be. And I hate bringing up past players that we've had because it's like an irky feeling with certain fans. But when you look at it, Thomas Davis, Derrick Brown, Luke Kuechly, Trey Boston, Kurt Coleman. I'm just bringing out names at different positions that were tone setters and they changed the game in their position. One thing that you get with Jalon Walker is a 2-for-1 special. He can play outside and inside. And I heard you guys in the press on Tuesday talk about the versatility that he brings. Me personally, I understand everybody wants a wide receiver. We'll talk about that question that you asked later. But if you ask Doug how I feel, I'm okay with Jalon Walker being at 8, but I do want more draft capital. But if we do not trade down, Jalon Walker's there. Go ahead and send a pick in. I'm fine.
I think I agree. In fact, I think that, like I said, I think it would be prudent for the Panthers to try to find an ideal trade partner behind them. But if that doesn't happen, if a team I don't know if we were going to get into this later, but so the New Orleans Saints at pick 9. News came out recently that Derek Carr has a shoulder injury that threatens his season in 2025. He's 34 years old. The Saints, in many ways, are a mess. They started the season really well last season and ended up firing their coach like down the stretch.
Correct.
If I'm the Saints, I am thinking about drafting a quarterback. Assuming Cam Ward goes at 1 to the Tennessee Titans, does that mean that the Saints go and try to get Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado and try to get him at 9? Well, what about if other quarterback needy teams like Shedeur Sanders and they want to find a way to get in front of the Saints in the pecking order or whatever? The 3 teams that come to mind, you got the Giants, the Raiders, and the Steelers, who all need quarterbacks, or at least started the offseason needing quarterbacks. The Giants, they went out and got Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston.
Yep.
I don't know how. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that. I think that that's pretty set, though. I think that if you sign Russell Wilson, you're probably good. You're probably thinking that, okay, my quarterback room is set.
Agreed.
The Raiders went out and got Geno Smith. And Geno Smith and Pete Carroll obviously have a long history together.
Correct.
But when it comes to the Steelers, they're linked. They're linked to Aaron Rodgers. You know what I'm saying? They're linked to Aaron Rodgers, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of, at least from the outside, there doesn't seem to be a lot of urgency around that pairing. I mean, they like each other, but like Aaron Rodgers' camp is taking its time, and Mike Tomlin's taking his time in evaluating and all these things. And on top of all that, Mike Tomlin said, hey, he's like come out and said, according to reports, that he really likes Shedeur Sanders.
Correct.
So if say all these stars align and the Steelers want to trade up and get Shedeur Sanders, who do they trade with? They trade with the Panthers at 8. And then the Panthers get to be the 21 spot. And assuming they get extra draft capital from that would be a huge deal for Dan Morgan. Like you get at pick 21, you get just like a bevy of front defensive 7 guys that you get to choose from. And then you have probably an extra pick in day 2 or day 3 or in future draft years. Like, I think that would be an A+ draft for the Panthers. I think if all that happens. A lot of that isn't within Dan Morgan's control, but I wanted to get your thoughts. I wanted to get your thoughts on if you think that is likely, if you think that the Steelers could make that move, and if the Panthers could benefit from that.
So I mean that goes from our opening comment of where I was saying how the board falls. If you have 2 quarterbacks taken, if Shedeur Sanders is taken by the Giants, then that scenario negates. But let's just say Cam Ward's the only quarterback. Who you got? Is it Will Campbell? You got Aldu Carter,
Ashton
Genty. Genty. Then you have Barron, Mason Graham, and then Tech. Again, that's the one that just depends on who you ask as well. But if Shedeur is there still on the board, I would be surprised if Dan Morgan does not reach out, regardless of Jalon Walker being there. Because again, let's just say Shedeur Sanders is the next best thing. I'm not saying the greatest, but the next best thing. You have to go against him. That's the best slap in the face to the New Orleans Saints that, hey, we're right here to get our next franchise quarterback, but now he's going to the AFC. So for me, I will really be shocked if Dan Morgan does not pick that phone up if he's sitting there at 8. And I call it a 3-for-1 special over here. What's up, Doug? You need to get 3 picks for that one because that's 15. Is it a 15 draft drop from 8 to 21? They'll be like, is it 15? Yeah, it's 15. Don't laugh at me though, because I know people are like, duh, it's 15. So it's 15 spots that we're dropping
it's
down.
13.
It's 13?
21 minus 8. 21 minus 8 is 13, yeah.
See, look.
I think, right?
Hold on, we about to do. Look.
Okay, here, I mean,
we're about to do it. We're about to do it. 21 minus 8. You're right. It's 13.
21 minus 8.
It's 13.
Yeah.
It's 13.
Okay.
So Doug was off. That's the joke. Yeah. I missed it by 2 picks, and that does mean a lot. So, For me, I do think so because again, you're at the bottom of the first round. We can move up from 57. Actually, possibly with two of those picks, use one of those picks to move up. Hopefully in the mid 30s, late 30s, going in the second round to 40s. Because again, another player that I like is Princely out of Ole Miss that everybody's starting to see as well. Got a top 30 visit. So for me, I like it. But again, like you said, we do not know until Thursday on the 24th what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
100%.
I'll ask you this then. Since I can't count, I know one thing that Dan said is he likes this wide receiver room, and we had the person that asked the question about the wide receivers. And I know a lot of people are looking at Dan like, hold on, like you're okay with the wide receiver room, and Excel, regardless of the drops, Adam Thielen being 1 year, possibly about to, go ride in the sunset after this year, and you got an undrafted rookie in Jalon Walker going into the second year. How do you feel about the wide receiver room? Like, again, you asked the question, how are you feeling right now? Should we draft one or should we just go with the numbers right now? And also, I'm going to throw a bonus in there. How do you feel about Ted McMillan?
Okay, this is a great question. I think that the Panthers, I think it's true what Dan Morgan said. I think the Panthers are content with their wide receiver room. I think that they see a future number one guy in Xavier Legette. Not to say that they think that he's a number one guy now, because I don't think that most people would say that in terms of like a superstar quality guy. Like, there's a reason why they went out and got Deontay Johnson last offseason.
Correct.
So I think they see a future number one guy in Xavier Legette. Behind him, they got Adam Thielen, but like you said, he is this guy who doesn't have that much longer in the NFL. In fact, he made a big deal about contemplating retirement this past offseason. Whether that was for generating leverage to get a raise or what have you, it doesn't matter. He's still what? How old is he? I know math isn't our thing, but he's still.
Keep talking. I'm gonna look it up. I'm not guessing that one.
Yeah, no, he's still up there when it comes to wide receivers. I think he's even older than Brad.
He's 34.
Okay, he's 34 years old. He's even older than the offensive coordinator, Brad Idzik, which is kind of
correct.
And then behind him, you got David Moore, another veteran.
Correct.
You got Jalon Walker, who talk about a pleasant surprise, man. A guy that didn't even make the 53-man roster last year is now like one of your better wide receivers.
Correct.
And then what? You got Dan Chisna? You need a wide
camp
receiver.
Body. I call them camp bodies, and I hate saying that, but it's the truth of camp body.
Well, I mean, he got meaningful targets last year. Like at least when the wide receiver was really down bad. And I mean, like he caught like 5 passes in college or something like that. I don't know. He wasn't a football player until he came to the Panthers, which is kind of wild. It's a really cool story. The point is that this wide receiver room is just not quite there. Even if you do, even the most optimistic reading of it all, in saying that Xavier Legette could one day be a number one wide receiver, even saying that Adam Thielen does have 1 to 2 more years of not only being really productive but also mentoring this next generation. Even if you do think that Jalon Walker could be a solid number 3 option in the coming years, you still need a number 1 guy. And they didn't go out and do it in free agency. Probably because DK Metcalf was way too expensive. Probably because T. Higgins had this unprecedented thing where he got franchise tagged twice and the Bengals didn't want to let go of him. There are reasons why they didn't go out and get another wide receiver, but there's no sugarcoating it. They want another one. They want a really good one. I mean, I don't think that's breaking any news. And I have always been team with that first pick. Take someone to keep fortifying this defense, because there's no way to understate or overstate how bad this defense was last year. Record setter in points given up. It was 17 games instead of 16 or whatever. It doesn't matter. it's the most points in the season ever, all time, period. On top of that, they gave up over 3,000 rushing yards.
Yep.
Yes, that has a lot to do with injuries along the defensive line, including Derek Brown week 1. Still 3,000 rushing yards, man. Like, so I've always been fortify this defense. But, of course, this is draft day. If something crazy happens and the Panthers do get pushed back a little bit, and Matthew Golden out of Texas is the number 1 guy available on their draft board, if I'm a Panthers fan, I would not be upset about Matthew Golden at all. I don't know how you feel about him. He is fast. He is a playmaker. He is good. He will fortify this receiver room. And then you look up, say they get a guy like Matthew Golden, and 4 years down the line, do the Panthers have one of the best receiving rooms in the NFL to go along with an ascending Bryce Young? I mean, that'd be cool too, you know?
Correct.
I'm kind of just, I mean, I apologize for just like kind of speaking in generalities, Doug, because but this is kind of what the year is right now, is you're kind of just like kind of floating out theories. But to answer your question, the Panthers do need a wide receiver. Whether they get them on day 2 or day 3 or day 1 is the question, but they need one. And if they end up getting Matthew Golden on day 1, I don't see that as a loss. I see that as a win. It's really hard to go wrong at 8, but if you trade back, then it's really, really hard to go wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I don't know how you feel about the wide receiver room, but that's kind of how I feel.
I like Jalon Walker out of Ohio State. I call him, even though he's not 6 foot, he still plays like a big body receiver, but he's fast. So I think he ran like a 4.34, or it was like a 4.4. I might have it's either 4.34 or a 4.43. A speedster. I know a lot of people are talking about J.D. Higgins out of Ohio State and Iowa State as well. So when you have 2 wide receivers from the same school, one's always going to get shine more than the other. But for me personally, if you ask, I like Jaden Noel. But I know a lot of people are going to say, y'all didn't talk about Tet. Me personally, at 8, I think Alex just said it. I don't think we need to draft Tet at 8. Again, this defense was so atrocious last year. It needs to be addressed. And you already gave an example of Matthew Golden. I just gave Jalon Noel. Then you got a Cal Williams out there out of Washington State who's getting a lot of burn as well. I can't think of Worrell's name out of Utah State. A late home run hitter that I love, and I think a lot of people are not talking about, is Jimmy Horn Jr. out of Colorado. So, again, there's options, and Alice said it. It could be day 1, day 2, or day 3. There are plenty of wide receivers. Just depends on the skill set that you need for this team. And I do think they will add one. I just don't think it's going to be day 1. So.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. I think and to your point about Tet McMillan, he did have a top 30 visit with the Panthers. But, you know, we asked Dan on Tuesday, how do you kind of view these top 30 visits? And he kind of said that they use it more as a way to get to know the players better. So, like, Tet could have been one of those guys who they were just like, okay, let's just make sure we do our due diligence in case we like fall in love with him on a visit. But you're right. I mean, if the Panthers get stuck at 8, they're not going to, I don't think they will take
it's not going to be fair. It's not going to be fair. Yeah. All right, so before we get you out of here, then go ahead and tell us a couple of prospects that you think the Carolina Panther fan base should kind of sort of pay attention to, or don't be surprised if their names are called throughout next week during the NFL draft.
So the first guy that I think, I mean, you guys already know this guy. I think the Panthers will take Jalon Walker at 8. Like not to, put all my stuff out there, but I just think that's the logical thing that will happen. Barring something crazy happening with the Steelers that we already covered ad nauseum, I think that is what's going to happen, and he would be a great addition for this defense. Outside of like these like first round guys, I have fallen in love with a couple day 2 and day 3 guys in my research. And one of them is like, it's kind of biased. I mean, Mike would probably yell at me for saying this out loud, but this guy, Jalon Lane out of Virginia Tech, he's probably going to be a 6th round, 7th round guy. And I know we're not supposed to talk about him, or I know we're not. I know that the fan base isn't, that's not where their eyes are, but he is from Clover, South Carolina, and he isn't that big. He's like 5'8" or whatever, but he could come in and be a special teams, like really special guy at special teams, I think. Like off the bat, whether he makes the 53-man roster, if he does get drafted somewhere, that could be interesting. Like that's not necessarily a guarantee for a 6th or 7th round guy, but I think that he would make a team very happy, and he's a guy that I don't think anyone has really heard about. So I'm really excited about him. You already mentioned him before, Nick Imanwari, the safety out of South Carolina. I think the Panthers really, I mean, I'm just reading tea leaves. This isn't like me reporting anything, but I think the Panthers would be well served by someone like him. He's kind of like a ball hawk guy, and he could pair nicely with Trayvon Moehrig. I know that they're trying to find someone who can pair well with Trayvon, because Trayvon's such a physical presence as a safety. I don't know. I have so many names just swimming in my head right now.
Give me one more.
Okay. I mean, shoot. Let's go. I mean, let me just give a position group. I think that the Panthers are going to get a tight end. I think that they are going to make a move to get a tight end in this draft.
Okay.
It's not going to be Tyler Warren. He's going to be gone early in the 1st round so let's put that to rest. But I think there is a sweet spot in the 2nd or 3rd round where the Panthers find a way to get a tight end. And you know who that is remains to be seen. But I just have a feeling about that. Not to say that they're not happy with their tight end position right now. Jatavian Sanders is, had a really good rookie season, a record-breaking rookie season. And they re-signed Tommy Tremble, obviously, but I think they could fortify that room a little bit. So, I'm not sure I adequately answered that question, but at this point, man, there's so many possibilities on the table.
It's a lot of possibilities.
It's hard to narrow it down.
Well, no, I mean, you gave us Jalon, you gave us Jalon Walker, you gave us Jalon Lane. And like I said, we talked about Nick Imanwari, so you gave us a couple of names. So I appreciate you joining us on this good old Thursday, Alex. But definitely tell everybody where they can find you at. Again, I know a lot of people know the big names, but I even told Alex when we were talking behind the scenes, you heard his voice on during the presser on Tuesday. So tell everybody where they can find you at, Alex, on X or even again on the Charlotte Observer.
Yeah. Well, Doug, thanks again. My name is Alex Zietlow. You can catch me on Twitter at Alex Zietlow05, or on X or whatever. I don't know what your listeners refer to it as. And I write about the Panthers for the Charlotte Observer, as well as assorted other things on the charlotteobserver.com. So thank you for having me on. This was a lot of fun. And I'm just ready for Thursday, man. Like we said at the top of the show, just get me to Thursday.
Yes, sir, man. So again, this is another episode of What's Up, Doug. We had our guy Alex Zietlow from the Charlotte Observer. Everybody take care. Everybody stay safe. We will see you next Thursday. We will not be live. We will be enjoying the draft, where we may not freak out or pull our hair out based off of what Dan Morgan does. But everybody have a good one. Until next time, stay safe.